Hey, it's Chef Evelyn here, and welcome back for another episode of The Chef's Table. This is the series where I teach corporate professionals how to build a high-end culinary business from scratch. So, in this video, I want to share with you 10 things I wish I would have done differently when I was changing careers. So if this is your first time with me, you may not know that while I may be a classically trained professional chef now, aka a chefpreneur because I'm in business for myself, I used to be a chemical environmental engineer working in a headquarters office at a corporate job for years. And after doing that for several years, I decided I really wanted to own my own time, and I really wanted to make space for the things that were super important to me. And so I decided to leave that career behind to go to culinary school and then ultimately become a chef and run my own business. And so in this video, I want to share with those of you who are either in the process of transitioning from your corporate role to a culinary business, or if you've already done it, or if you're currently straddling the fence, I want to share with you 10 things I wish I would have done differently when I was transitioning. And so I have my notes here. If this is your first time here, you may not know this, but I really value your time. There are lots of videos on the web that you could be watching, or live streams that you could be tuning into, or blogs that you could be reading. But since you're here, I like to make sure that every time you and I sit down for a chat, that I am valuing your time and giving you something that's really useful. So I make notes, and so I'll often look down because I've got my little index card right underneath the camera so that I don't forget to share with you all that I want to share. So these aren't in any particular order, but when I was thinking about what could I share with you that was super valuable for those of you who are changing careers or have changed careers and you're kind of out there and you're like, what do I need to do? I think this video will be helpful. Hopefully it'll be insightful. So let's jump right in. And before we do, if you have not signed up for my free training From Corporate to Culinary, How to Build Your High-End Culinary Business, then make sure that you grab that, okay? Because in there, I go into what exactly is a high-end culinary business and brand, what are the components that are in there, and what does it take as someone who is a corporate employee who's been in your job for years, you're established, you're used to a certain level of living. How do you go from that and not drop, okay, to following your passion of wanting to be in food? So without further ado, let's hop right in. So one of the first things that I wish I would have done differently, or that I regret actually, is that I didn't do it sooner. You know, many of you know the story that I was in college, I was in engineering school, I was double majoring, and I was sitting in thermodynamics too. So interesting. And everybody was on the edge of their seats, like super into what the professor was talking about. And I just remember that I wanted to be at home baking brownies, that nothing about that intrigued me. And I remember thinking, if I'm going to have to do this for the next 30, 40, 50 years, I am not going to make it. Okay. I'm not going to make it. And so, I still graduated because my parents were like, we fully support you going to culinary school, but you're going to go ahead and finish this degree. That's super expensive, and you've been there for 4 years and you're double majoring. You're going to go ahead and finish. And then what you want to do after that is up to you. And so I went ahead and I finished college and I graduated in engineering, and I went to work in corporate America. You know, I didn't really have a plan for a culinary career or culinary school, and I didn't really know what to do. And I was there for several years. And the only thing I wish I would have done differently is I wish I would have just took a risk and jumped right out there and went to culinary school right after college. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that once I did go to culinary school, I was under this impression that culinary school was going to teach me not just about food, but that it was going to teach me about being an entrepreneur. Because, you know, if I wanted to own a restaurant or a catering company or be a personal chef, I thought that that's what culinary school was going to teach me. And here's the thing, culinary school was super valuable. I became a much better cook than I already was. And I learned a lot of technique and about food safety and sanitation and all that. But the only thing I really learned was how to go work for somebody else. We had one little course on if you wanted to start a restaurant, and I knew I didn't want to start a restaurant. I knew that working in hotels and owning a restaurant or working in a restaurant, that I didn't want that kind of low wage, long hours lifestyle. I was a career changer. I was already established. I was a little bit older. I already knew that I didn't want that. And so that class wasn't super beneficial to me. And so I spent the next several years after culinary school really trying to figure it out and DIY it on my own. And one of the things that I wish I would have done, which I eventually did do, was invest in getting some help, some coaching, some guidance, because I wasted a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of energy, and expended a lot of stress because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I couldn't find this thing that fit the way I wanted to live, which was like, I still want the lifestyle that I had when I was in corporate, but I'm in this space that traditionally doesn't pay that well, and I don't want, super crazy work weeks. Like, part of the reason why I left corporate America is because I didn't want 40, 50, 60 hour weeks, right? So I wish I would have invested sooner, and I would have saved myself so much stress, so much money, and so much time. Okay. And with that, I wish I would have invested more sooner as well. Like, I think I was like penny pinching because I was like, I'm not really sure. And I ended up paying anyway. I ended up paying with years of my life that I will never get back. And so that's the second thing. So the first thing is I wish I would have done it sooner. I just wish I would have jumped right in sooner. And the second thing is I wish I would have invested sooner, and I wish I would have invested more. Okay. The third thing is that I didn't follow my gut. I knew that I didn't want to be a personal chef, and I knew that I didn't want to be a caterer. And I think the challenge was I didn't know what else there was. When I thought about culinary entrepreneurship, I thought either you own a restaurant, you're a personal private chef, or you cater. Maybe you do meal prep. I couldn't think of anything else to do at that time, but my gut was telling me that none of these things were a good fit. And so I still went and did it anyway, because I was like, this is all I know. This is all I see. Is this the only way to be an entrepreneur in the culinary space? I guess so. And listen, some people love catering. I'm not a fan. I don't like schlepping the things around. Evelyn don't like it. Okay. And so I did it, but I was like, this is not it. I did personal chefing. I didn't love it. It wasn't until I started teaching cooking classes and started doing some other things that I really realized I could have a completely different career and be in food and be an entrepreneur and still have the lifestyle that I was accustomed to from working my corporate job. So that I didn't follow my gut. Here's the other thing that I regret that I wish I would have done differently. I remember I was getting ready to graduate from culinary school, and I was graduating in December. And so it was October, and I had recently, the year before, I had left my job in order to be able to finish culinary school. And I was talking to one of my friends from my previous job, and she was like, so Evelyn, what's the plan? Like, you're graduating in 3 months. Like, what are you doing? What's the goal? And she was like, are you going to come back to engineering or like, what's the plan? Well, I knew I didn't want to go back to corporate. And so the goal for so long had been going to culinary school that I was at the end of culinary school and I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I took odd jobs here and there and worked for different places. And while I got amazing experience, I spent a significant amount of time trying to find myself. And I guess that goes back to, if I had a mentor or a guide or a program or something, at least would have aimed me in a certain direction. And so I spent a lot of time doing a lot of different things. And I mean, what's great in hindsight about that is that I did experiment with a lot of different working environments. And so I'm able to take pieces of that knowledge and share it with my clients and my coaching clients. And I can already tell them, like, if they're anything like me, or if they have any of the same desires and goals on how they want to work, I can already tell them, like, that looks like that's what you want to do, but I'm telling you, that's not what you want to do, boo. It's not what you want to do. Okay. So having a plan, and I realized that in every other area of my life, I was such a planner. And so I was surprised that I didn't have a plan, and it really backfired. I mean, you're talking years of just confusion and trying to piece it all together. I was in this whole different world, this whole different industry. So not only was I no longer an employee, I was an entrepreneur, but I was also in a different industry. I knew corporate, this was culinary. I was like, I got to learn the culinary space and that world. And then I also have to learn the complete different mindset between being an employee and an entrepreneur. And it was probably a more painful process than it needed to be. But I needed a plan. Okay. So let me keep going, because this video, I can already tell, is going to be chatty and long, but hopefully helpful to you. Okay. I said the next thing is I think because I didn't have a plan, and even when I got a little bit more clear about what I was doing, is that I tried to DIY everything. I'm talking about from DIYing my logo, to DIYing my website, to DIYing my photos, to DIYing. I was trying to DIY everything. And I think it's because as a creative, as a chef, we're resourceful. We can look at a recipe in a magazine and be like, I don't even need the recipe. I can make that. I can look at you and I can look at that and basically tell what's in it. And I think I tried to do that in business, and it was very naive of me, very foolish of me, because to think that I had spent all of my life being groomed to be an employee. I mean, from the time we are in preschool and elementary school, it is grooming us to be employees, right? And college grooms you to be an employee. And so if you get your master's and beyond, all of that is grooming you to be in academia or in corporate. And entrepreneurship is a completely different ballgame. And so it was naive of me to think that if I didn't have to, if I couldn't DIY my first career, which is I had to go get help and learn how to write a resume, learn how to interview, go to college, learn the skills, invest in myself, take out loans, do all the things. It was foolish of me to think that if I just spent the last 20 plus years doing that I'd be able to enter into a new space and a new genre and a new mindset, and I could DIY it and make it work. It was a huge mistake. And a lot of times when things are DIY, the person who DIYs it doesn't think it looks DIY, and people who know that it was DIY. I'm telling you, I can look at people's websites or look at their branding or look at what they're trying to do, and I can tell if it was DIY or if it's like part DIY, part done on a budget. So no offense, but I did it, but it also wasn't beneficial to me. And so when I started to really invest, like I said, more and get out of the DIY thing, it made a huge difference. Okay. Another thing, a mistake that I made is I spend money on the wrong things. I remember, and I get this all the time. So let me just tell you this. I do strategy calls with potential clients, and when we get on the phone, I can't tell you how many people have been like, they want to have some kind of event or open house to launch their business. And it's so funny because I did the same thing. And I had this huge event. I cooked all this food and it was decorated really pretty, and I invited all my friends and family, and we took pictures and all of this. And that was my launch party that I was in business, and people had an amazing time. The food was delicious. And when it was all said and done, I didn't have one client because my friends and family are not my target market. But when you're DIYing it, you don't know. And so I've had so many people get on my call, and that's what they want to do. They want to have some kind of event. It doesn't have to be what I did, but it's usually very similar to launch their business. And I always ask the question, then what? Then what? And I spent all that money, and I told one of my previous private one-on-one coaching clients, I told her, I said, I did that. And from that one event, I never really recouped my money from that. I eventually went on to earn money doing other things a significant amount of time later, but I didn't earn money back from that. I spent all that money, all that energy, all that time, all that cooking, all that food. My businesses don't even have the same name. I didn't even know what I was offering people, and I had that event. So I think spending money on the wrong things. I see a lot of chefs that are so concerned about their logo, and they're so concerned about buying equipment, and they're so concerned about buying all these things. And I'm like, that is not what you need to be focusing on, okay, and spending your money on. But listen, I did the same thing, okay. Moving on, what else? That I was, I regret that I wasn't disciplined and consistent. that I was kind of in and out. For a while, I was even in and out of jobs and being an entrepreneur because I couldn't figure out how to make it work, because I was trying to DIY it, and because I was not investing. I was in and out of jobs for a significant amount of time. So I'd go work a job for a year, and then, okay, I'm back to entrepreneurship. And then I go work and come back. And it was crazy making. And I remember I heard someone say that if you always have a plan B, you will always take plan B. And so that's what was happening to me, that going back to either engineering or going back and getting a job was always plan B. And it sounds so logical and so smart. And I'm not anti-job. Like, I'm totally not anti-job. But I was inconsistent. I was inconsistent in my business. And part of the reason why I was inconsistent is because I didn't know what to commit to. Right? I was doing things. I was busy a lot. I felt like I was working all the time, but I wasn't working. I was like building a website, trying to redo my logo. What are my services going to be? Blah, 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 blah. And it just seemed to take forever. And I was focusing on all the wrong things. And because I didn't know what to do, it was hard to commit and be consistent and disciplined in those things. Okay. I think the other thing, one of the biggest mistakes that I made was I wasn't teachable. I had this thought of, I'm a smart person, I can figure this out. And if you're anything like I was, listen, you're like, I don't went to college, I got all these degrees, I've worked in this, I've managed these $1 million budgets, I've done X, Y, and Z, I've won these awards in my job, I've been promoted, I've done this, I got seniority, all of this, right? And so here's the thing, you are intelligent. You are intelligent. You are smart. I'm smart, I'm intelligent. That's not what's up for discussion. I think the thing is that I needed to realize that everybody is not smart at something. If you ask me how to get a turtle out of its shell, like how to break open a turtle, I'd be an idiot at that because I don't know that. I've never studied that, right? But somehow, what I see so often with people who want to go from corporate to culinary is this mindset of like, I got a master's degree, I got 2 bachelor's degree, I got 4 degrees, I got a, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got a BA in this, and it can't be more difficult than what I studied in school. And it's not necessarily difficult. It's just that you don't know what you don't know, right? Before you knew what you know now, you had to go study it. And so I wasn't teachable in that way because I had convinced myself I'm smart and I can figure it out. Well, I didn't. I mean, eventually I was smart enough to realize that I wasn't smart in that area. And I went and got some guidance, and I went and got some support, and I went and got some help and some direction and some strategy, and started investing in myself that way, and became teachable and humbled myself and said, just because I don't know this doesn't mean that I'm not a smart person. I'm still a smart person, but I need to be taught this completely new area of life. So, the last 2, I'll say this, is that I try to appeal my business to everyone. And there is a very common marketing quote. I don't even know who said it because it's so common, which is, if you're talking to everyone, no one is listening. Meaning, I wanted to be able to be like, yes, I cater, and I do classes, and I do meal prep, and I'm a personal chef, and I do all the things, right? And whoever wants it, that's who I do it for. And I didn't have a target market, and I didn't have a ideal client avatar, and all the things that drive a lot of entrepreneurs crazy because either they can't figure it out or they haven't mastered it yet. And I thought, oh, that's for them, that's not for me. Whoever wants, that's what I'm going to do. And here's the problem with that. How do you market that? How do you market to everybody? How do you say what you're trying to say to everyone when everybody has different needs and desires and priorities in life? How do you do it? You don't. You be unsuccessful. Okay, that's bad English, but you be unsuccessful, right? Like, y'all know I'm going to keep it real with y'all, okay? And then the last one, and probably one of the most important ones, which I see this all the time. I've done it. So none of this, let me say this. Everything that I'm sharing with you is something that I have done, and I'm telling you not to do this. The thing that is mind-boggling to me at this point in my business is people who take advice from their family and friends who A, aren't even in the culinary industry, and B, don't have businesses themselves. I'd be like, really? Like, they may have read something, they may have heard something, and I'm not even saying they may not have a nugget of wisdom here and there. But how are they gonna teach you to do what they've never done? Like, that makes no sense to me. No sense to me. I've done it, asking people, what do you think my price is? They don't know. They gonna tell you what they would be willing to pay, and even though they're not gonna pay you, like, it's insane, and it's ludicrous. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna give you what they've seen, what they think works, based on nothing. Okay, based on zero credibility, zero experience, zero anything, because they love you. Okay, not because they're bad people, but they don't know. I'm always amazed. Like, it's when people ask people to cook for free for exposure, but the people who are telling you exposure are employees and have never had a business in the day of their life, but they want to give you advice on exposure for your business. No. Don't do it. So anyway, taking advice from family and friends on what investments they should make in their business. You shouldn't do that. You don't need all that. You can figure that out yourself. Maybe you should do this. Trying to tell you what products and services you should do. They don't know. They love you and they want to help and they want to see you win and they want to see you succeed. But the reality is they don't know. Okay. And I've done it, and it will send you down a path of crazy making. So anyway, I just want to share with you 10 things that I either regret or wish I had done differently when changing from being a chemical and environmental engineer at a Fortune 100 company to now being a culinary entrepreneur. And so I hope you have enjoyed this video. And make sure you're following me on Instagram at Chef Evelyn. I was about to give you a completely different Instagram account that has nothing to do with this channel. But at Chef Evelyn, if you're not in the Chefpreneur Society Facebook group, then the link to join that is there. There's several hundred chefs over there talking about growing their businesses, and make sure you grab that training, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.